Keep it up, guys. Come on, next wave, come on. Let's do it. Go.
swear straight up to the candy. I swear to God, what do you got?
Good morning. We gather today to honor the brave men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice and continue to do so, serving in our armed forces, to keep us safe and protect the freedom that we hold so dear. It is their sacrifice that allows us to be individuals with our own thoughts and voices. It is their sacrifice that allows us to share those voices in support and opposition of our government. It is their sacrifice that allows us to gather as we have today in thanks and remembrance. Thank you. All right, now we go. All right, now I'd like to introduce our newest former selectman, Mark Russo. Recycled, exactly.
Good morning, everyone. It's my task today to say a few words leading up to a few moments of silence. So it's Memorial Day, a day of high purpose, a day to remember and appreciate, a day to commemorate, a day to honor duty and sacrifice. It's also a day to honor what that duty and sacrifice were and are in service of, remembering not only the sacrifices, but also the blessings those sacrifices protect and perpetuate. In that regard, I continue to be amazed each year, standing up here from the gazebo, looking out over the gathering, the panoramic view, this beautiful late spring day. Oops, might have to do a rewrite on that part. This stunning town green serving the community for centuries, the amazing array of participants, this beautiful and quite unique town with so much history, so much sense of place, a place that retains its rural and agricultural character, and even more importantly, retains its small town values and intimacy. And maybe that part's the most important. The uniqueness of this town, where we have such a sense of community, such a sense of shared values, such a sense of belonging, all so worthwhile protecting. So surely this is a good time to take a few moments to look around, to savor each other, to savor this place, this sense of community, this sense of purpose, and especially to savor this opportunity to honor those who have served and sacrificed, to honor why we do so. So we take a few moments of silence to witness, to appreciate, to savor, to deeply honor. And now Dennett School, elementary school student Chloe Tugas will sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Christine Joy, the chair of the Board of Selectmen, will do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to introduce Reverend Anna Nan Eaton Butera for invocation.
Let us pray. Gracious God, today we remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms we enjoy every day. Please hold our servicemen and women in your strong arms. Cover them with your sheltering grace and your presence as they stand in the gap for our protection. We also remember the families of our troops. We ask for your unique blessings to fill their homes and pray your peace, provision, and strength will fill their lives. May the members of our armed forces be supplied with courage to face each day, and may they trust in your almighty power to accomplish each task. Let our military brothers and sisters feel our love and support. And in the quiet sanctuaries of our own hearts, let each of us name and call on the one whose power over us is great and gentle, firm and forgiving, holy and healing. You who created us, who sustain us, who call us to live in peace, hear our prayer this day. Hear our prayer for all who have died, whose hopes and hearts are known to you alone. Hear our prayer for those who put the welfare of others ahead of their own, and give us hearts as generous as theirs. Hear our prayer for those who gave their lives in the service of others, and accept the gift of their sacrifice. Help us to shape and make a world where we will lay down the arms of war and turn our swords into plowshares for a harvest of justice and peace. Comfort those who grieve the loss of their loved ones, and let your healing be the hope in our hearts. Hear our prayer this day, and in your mercy answer us in the name of all that is holy. Amen.
We are particularly honored today to have with us Doris Silva, As chairman of the selectmen a couple of years ago, I had the great pleasure of presenting her with the Boston Cane, awarded to Plympton's oldest citizen. It's now 2 years later. Doris is now 99 and a half years old. We're very appreciative that she would join us today, and we're particularly appreciative of the example of grace and resilience that she models so beautifully. I think the chair of the Garden Club is going to present some flowers. So Genevieve Walsh will present the flowers to Doris. Our sincere wishes for continuing long and happy life to Doris. Thank you so much. So it is also my great honor today to introduce our guest speaker today, a really wonderful young woman named Patricia Sherman. Patricia lives in Plymouth with her 9-year-old daughter, Skylar. Patricia's husband was a member of the 82nd Airborne at Fort Bragg. She has been kind enough to join us today and share her story.
How is everyone today? Thanks for coming out and showing your support on such a meaningful day. To many, my name is the widow of Sergeant Benjamin W. Sherman, or a Gold Star spouse, or even the wife of a soldier that was killed in Afghanistan. But my real name is Patricia Sherman. I am a Gold Star spouse. My husband, Sergeant Benjamin Sherman, joined the Army to protect our freedom right out of high school. We had a fairy tale life with no problems, a house, 2 dogs, a baby on the way. It couldn't have gotten any better. But instead, it got worse. We got the news he was set to deploy on August 25th, 2009, just one day before our 1-year anniversary of being married. He went over to fight the war in Afghanistan. On November 4th, 2009, my doorbell rang. At 7:01 p.m., so scared to answer the door because it was dark and I was home alone, I waited. Then again, it rang at 7:03. But what I heard was someone holding the doorbell in, that low but yet high humming noise. So I got up and walked slowly towards the door and poked my head out. There I saw every military's wife's worst fear. 2 gentlemen in Class A standing there. My heart started racing and I started to sweat. The only words I got in that moment were from the Secretary of the United States. We regret to inform you that your husband, Specialist Benjamin W. Sherman, has gone missing. They were there to inform me that my husband had gone missing on a resupply mission. From that day forward, my life changed. Wishful thoughts and a lot of praying. I prayed and wished that he had just got lost and was playing a joke on me. He always loved to scare me. The second time, on a different day, my doorbell rang. It was November 10, 2009, at 3:03 p.m. It was yet again 2 men in Class A uniforms, a chaplain, and a medic. They were there to inform me the saddening news that they had found my husband's body submerged deep within the river after 6 long nights and days of searching. I dropped to my knees, screaming it wasn't true. This day had changed my life yet again, this time for the worse, of no hopes of ever talking to Ben again. How was I, a 21-year-old girl, 4 months pregnant, who had everything she dreamed of in life come to a stop? How was I a widow? I didn't even know that at 21 you could be a widow. How could something like this happen to my family? The price of war takes so much from us, and most don't even realize it. I got to speak to my husband the night before he went missing. He was happy, couldn't wait to come home for the birth of our child. Told me how he wanted a boy so bad so he could teach him to play baseball and football like he did. but I wanted him to have a girl. In either way, boy or girl, he was happy to raise a strong and beautiful child at the same time. He couldn't have been more happier to know that we had a special baby on the way. Having a baby for us was special because we struggled for 2 years to get pregnant. After doctor's appointments, testing, we finally became pregnant before he deployed. He wanted nothing more to have a family full of kids. Sadly, that never happened. I am now 28 years old, raising our 7-year-old daughter Skyla all by myself. After my husband's death, I stayed in North Carolina. It was comforting being around the military and always having people that understood who I was. Moving back to Massachusetts has been a struggle. In Plymouth, where our life began, my husband and I met. We were only 6 years old when we met, and we started dating in the 8th grade at PCIS together. We always found ways to sneak around with one another and just be happy kids. Everywhere I turn, there's always a memory of him. Now these memories I can pass on to our daughter, Skyla. She's my savior. If it wasn't for her, I'm not sure I'd be standing in front of you today. Such a small child that has helped me realize that life is precious, to do stupid things and waste time with petty issues. It has taught me that life is short, not to hold grudges, and to not judge people on their actions. It is too short to think about the what-ifs in life. You never know what some people are going through in life to make them who they are today. Ben went missing November 4th of 2009 and was found November 10th of 2009. He was on a resupply mission and became under attack on heavy gunfire from the Taliban. Without second thought, Ben and his friend went into the river to cross it to get the supplies. What they didn't realize, there was a 20-foot drop-off and a current that was strong enough to power the Plymouth power plant on its own. When his friend dropped in without hesitation, Ben went in after him, again without realizing the conditions. They both were swept away and found dead days later. It wasn't easy, but my daughter's my strength and she's what gets me through the days. If we could take a moment of silence for my husband, Benjamin. Thank you, and I wish you guys all a great Memorial Day.
Thank you, Patricia. Many forms of service. Each year, one essay is chosen from the Dennett School student submissions as to what Memorial Day means to me. I'm pleased to introduce this year's selection speaker, Rosella Hoffman.
What Memorial Day means to me. My mother is a retired Army Staff Sergeant. I recall years ago, when she would go off to training, how sad and depressed I felt, missing her every day she was gone. But my dad always reminded me that she was doing this for our country. This memory reminds me about Memorial Day. Memorial Day to me is about honoring all the men and women who have fought and gave their lives to protect us and our country, being thankful for them, and recognizing our freedom. Memorial Day is about honoring everyone who died in battle. Many of these soldiers are not just soldiers. They are mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, who all have a family back at home. To be brave enough to possibly never seeing them again is astounding. On Memorial Day, we should also be thankful. These soldiers were courageous to give their lives for our country so we did not have to. Besides having ice cream and taking the day off of work and school, we should take time to remember and to be reflective about those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Lastly, Memorial Day is a time to recognize our freedom. If those soldiers never went to war, we would be living in a different world. Because those men and women went off to war, we have equal rights and live more peacefully than years ago. We should acknowledge those who died for our country and protected us. On Memorial Day, a holiday where we celebrate the coming of summer with cookouts and family, everyone should take time to pay their respects to those who gave their lives. These sacrifices continue to preserve, as stated in the Declaration of Independence, our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. In 1915, in Ypres, Belgium, in the center of intense and sustained battles between German and Allied forces, 100,000 lives were lost in a month of fighting. Canadian Brigadier Dr. John McCrae wrote his poem Flanders Field as a tribute to his Canadian artillery officer and friend Lieutenant Alexis Helmer, who was killed on May 2nd, 1915. Here to recite Flanders Field is Jennifer Blint.
In Flanders Fields by Dr. John McCrae. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
Thank you, Jenny. As is a Memorial Day tradition, each year a Dennett School student is chosen to recite the Gettysburg Address. It is my pleasure to introduce Jolie Tugas.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation, so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met here on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little know, nor long remember, what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, and that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, and that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Thank you, Jolie. I'd like to introduce Kathy Ferguson, who will now read the list of military service of those present and fallen.
First, I'd like to thank our Honor Guard, Steve Lewis, Dan Ferguson, Sarah Cook, and her grandfather, Dave. Today we recognize all service members, past and present. Plympton doesn't have a standalone event for Veterans Day or Armed Forces Day, which is why this list is inclusive. Vinnie Amoni, Army. Jack Andrews, Army. Arthur Belleville Jr., Army. William Benavides, Navy. Lawson Billings, Marines. Thomas Bowes, Navy, Marines. Bruce Bradford, Navy. Irv Butler, Army. Dean Chadbourne, Army. Wes Chadbourne, Coast Guard. Dave Chandler, Army. Elliot Chandler, Army. Ann Collins. Paul Columby, Marines. Bruce Conant, Navy. Jacob Cook, Navy. Sarah Cook, Army, ROTC. Roger Crocker, Navy. Our Police Chief Pat Dillon, Marines. John Enright, Air Force. Kevin Follis, Marines. Daniel Ferguson, Navy. Jacob Ferguson, Navy. Norman Ferguson, Sr., Army. Ward Ferguson, Army. Zach Flood, Air Force. Joe Freitas, Army. Chris Ganley, Navy. Vincent Gillespie, Navy. Bob Gillette, Air Force. Richard Grigorenko, Air Force. Mark Halfinger, Air Force. Rick Halfinger, Air Force. Bill Hayes, Army. Paul Heideke, U.S. Naval Reserve. John Haminicki, Navy. Jocelyn Holmes, Navy. Robert Jacobson, Air Force. Clifford Jordan, Navy. Jeff Joyce, Army. Bob Carling, Navy. Barbara Kierstead, Army National Guard. Edward Kierstead, Army. Gloria Kierstead, Air Force. James Kierstead, Army. Robin Kierstead, Air Force. Rufus W. Kierstead, Army. Russell Kierstead, Air Force. Dave Kanekalis, Marines. William King, Army. Andrew Lawson. Steve Lewis, Army. Paul Eisel, Navy. Richard Lyon. Steve Lyons, Navy Seabees. Dave Medeiros, Marines. Mario M. Martins, Navy. Paul McDermott, Francis McPartland. Edward Miller, Navy. Jeffrey Montello, Marines. David Morris, Navy. Jay Morris, Navy. Frank Moulton, Army. David Murphy, Marines. Neil Murphy, Navy Seabees. Mike Perkins, Marines and Coast Guard. Robert Peters, Army National Guard. Richard Proctor, Army. Raymond Reed, Army. Conrad Russell, Navy. Richard Ruxton, Navy Seabees. Eric Sales, Army. Carl Sales, Army. Peter Schultz, Navy. Dora Silver, United States Coast Guard. Christine Snow, Army. Clint Stetson, Navy. William Stinchfield Jr., Navy. Charlene Stober, Air Force. Gary Thompson, Air Force. Jim Thompson, Army. Wesley Tonks, Army. Donald Vautrinot, Army. Edmund A. Wollaston Jr., Navy. John Wollaston, Navy. Robert Wollaston, Army. Edmund Weldon. Our Veterans Agent, Roxanne Whitbeck, Navy. Howard White, National Guard. Ira White, Air Force. William L. Lanny White, Air Force and Army National Guard. Harry Weichel Jr., Marines. Rebecca Wilder, Navy. Charles Winslow, Navy Seabees. And Daniel L. Zentz, Air Force. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Boy Scouts for the wreath placement, and I believe they did the flags on the graves too. Should I invite them up? I'd like to thank everyone for coming and invite everyone in attendance to the fire station for Touch a Truck. It's going to be a little wet, but the trucks are outside, or they will be back at the fire station. And I'd like to invite Bridget up to thank the people that helped her put such a nice program together today. Bridget.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today. I really appreciate it. So does the committee and the town, the selectmen, everybody at the townhouse. It takes a lot of people to do this, and I'd like to thank the people that really stepped up. Without Kim Adams, I don't know where I'd be. I can tell you that. Kathy Ferguson, Peter Kupic, Steve Lewis, Chris and Luna Rankin, who helped and put up all the bunting. We really appreciate it. And Franny Walsh and Genevieve, who stepped up today, and her mom. And we have Wes Kupic, who comes with his dad. Rain, sleet, snow, he's there and helps. So thank you all very much for coming. This is my second parade. First one got canceled, and it rained. It's raining again today. So next year, just plan on rain. But thank you all for really coming today. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.